I would probably take an average 1-2 grinder playing his A game over an average 25-50 grinder playing his C game any day.
You're listening to the Mindset Advantage podcast. Each week, you'll get to peek inside the greatest minds in the game and discover what makes them successful.
Mental toughness separates those that can't handle the stress.
If you're going to treat it like an amateur, you're probably going to have amateur results.
Here are your hosts, Elliot Rowe and Adrian Talenchik Rousum.
So hello and welcome to the show. This week we have Gabriel Kollander coming on. He runs a spin stable and he plays in 501k spins as a regular. He's coming on to talk about his mindset in those games and his lifestyle in Bali as a traveling poker player. So let's jump into that interview now. So Gabe, welcome to the show. For those of you out there who don't know Gabriel, he's a high-stakes spin and go player. He plays the 500s and the 1Ks, and he also runs Evolve Staking, so his own staking group for spins players. And he also loves to dance. So there's a start for you. So Gabe, thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I actually got to dance not once, but twice yesterday, so I'm extremely happy.
Excellent stuff. And in terms of the spins and things like that, talk to us about how you found the spins as a game to play professionally, and how that then turned into you running a stable.
Yeah, I mean, spins are definitely, I think, a good game type for playing poker professionally for a variety of reasons. I don't want to bore all of your listeners going into statistical data and variance calculations and all of that. But essentially, you can get a nice edge in them if you have the right information, the right approach, and you work hard at it. And I didn't always play spins, but again, I won't go on a super long backstory or anything like that. But yeah, they're a great game format to play, and I really do enjoy playing them as well, which I'm thankful for.
And when it comes to spins, one of the things that, obviously from the mindset side, people have mentioned is the ability to have slightly better life balance because of the way the game's run. How have you found that since switching over?
Yeah, that actually has been really nice, because before I was playing spins, I was playing high stakes cash games. And the approach in those games is kind of like, if there's action, you're at your desk and you're not moving until the action has completed itself. And essentially the fun player has run out of funds.
Fun players run out of funds.
You like that, right? That was all.
Yeah. It works well. So obviously a big shift in lifestyle from basically being, to some extent, sort of a slave to when the recreational players want to play, versus with spins, obviously they're running most of the time. What did you do life balance wise with that switch?
I tried to kind of go pretty deep on it, just in terms of looking at how I approached playing poker and how it sort of was almost running my life a bit back when I was playing high stakes cash. Compared to now, I kind of have poker just be an aspect of my life. And I'm like, okay, cool. I want to play this many hours. And why do I want to play this many hours? So like, what are my monetary goals? How much volume do I want to get in? What game quality do I want to get in as well? And there's certain factors still with playing the high stakes spins to where you can't just, play them all the time at any point in the day if you want to, make sure you're getting the right quality of games and things of that nature as well. But again, I could go on for that for the rest of the podcast, but I won't do that because your listeners won't care.
And in terms of how's that felt making that shift?
Yeah, it's felt very liberating, I would say. Over the last year or so, I've made some pretty dramatic shifts, I guess, in terms of my mindset and my approach to playing poker and trying to bring back the freedom, I guess, when it comes to playing poker professionally. And it's felt very, very good and right to do that. And I'm happy about it. I mean, yourself, we've been working together for, what is it, over 6 years now?
It's a long time. Gabe is, for everyone out there, Gabe is one of my original clients, so that gives you all an idea.
I'm OG when it comes
OG,
to LA.
definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been really, really good. I'm very much enjoying it. And like my approach is just every day to continue to try and find ways to improve every aspect of what I'm doing, and like what we're talking right now in terms of how I'm utilizing my time and how much time I want to put into playing and how I want to optimize that time so it's the most efficient as possible.
Yeah, and it's so important because a lot of players think that, being a professional means just playing as many hours as possible if they want to be truly successful. And the reality of it is that burnout is real, and it does happen. If you don't have this life balance, it makes for a pretty miserable player, and then typically a not very successful player as well. Is this something you've ever seen over, obviously you've run the stables and things, what have you seen on that side with your guys and life balance?
I would say that, especially with my current stable of all staking, I feel like we do a pretty solid job of helping to guide our players towards having a bit more life balance than maybe you might find in a normal professional poker player. Like, we're very big on mental game coaching. We actually have like multiple mental game coaches now at this point, just with different approaches and just trying to find the exact right fit for each of our guys as they move up in the stakes, and just trying to get people to take a look at why they're working so hard and putting in so many hours and so much effort towards becoming the best that they can be. You don't want to just mindlessly do something. You want to be like, well, why do I want to do this? Do I want to do it so I can, have X amount in the bank because that's going to give me this awesome sense of security? Do you want to just be able to provide for your family? Do you want to buy a house because you're just like, I just love houses and that's just something I'm excited about?
Yeah, so sort of trying to find the intrinsic motivation for everything.
Yeah. Exactly. And you try and like form a little bit of a community atmosphere with it as well. So like guys will be chatting with each other, and I know a lot of people like talk with each other like via PM on Skype, and like they'll just do like sweat sessions or just like chat about things that come up. And I think that's really helpful as well, to have that sense of community, and it's not just clocking in and putting in the hours.
Yeah, and that's something that probably doesn't get spoken about enough. We don't usually cover it enough here. And that's the isolation of poker, because obviously with staking groups, it's great that you get someone backing you. It's great that you get training. But for a lot of players I've spoken to, the biggest thing they get to is actually that sense of community and feeling like they're part of something bigger and they have that support network behind them. Is that anything you've found through your career?
Yeah. I mean, I personally myself, I've been staked multiple times and been part of different stables. So I've kind of seen it from both the perspective of a horse as well as being the owner of a stable. And I've kind of tried to take all those different viewpoints that I've gotten, experiences that I've gotten, and just continue to learn and grow as I've, had multiple different stables over the course of my career as well. And just, be the best that I can be. And my biggest reasoning and kind of motivation for wanting to do that is it just feels good to provide the best value that you can to the people that are trusting you with their time and their energy to commit to be working with you. And, I just want to do my best to give them that value, and for them to feel good about the decision that they made. Cause like, I remember being that player. It's like, do I want to sign this contract? Do I really want to commit to this period of time to work with someone? Like, I don't know. Like, it's a scary thing.
Yeah, it is, and it's also nice to hear that you view it that way in terms of trying to get the best for the guys. Now, one thing we haven't mentioned yet, which is a lot of fun, is very recently you were videoing yourself for a video blog, and you ended up hitting 100K spin and go game whilst you're filming it. So talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, that was definitely awesome. I will have to admit, though, I was playing and not recording naturally, and then I realized I hit the game, and I was like, oh,
Right. Okay.
Disclaimer.
So talk to us about that experience.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, I was just kind of playing along, doing my thing. I actually was considering going out that night to go dance. There's a festival that's going on in Bali, but I just like wasn't feeling the vibe. Like I wanted to go out, and I try and always listen to my intuition if I want to go be social or if I just kind of want to do my own thing. And I go back and forth between that. And yeah, so I was just playing, and then all of a sudden, this game pops up, and it's like that weird color that you're like, what? It's like, oh, okay. Let's take a couple of deep breaths, and I'm like, all right, got to open up the video recording software and like not time out. That's the first goal here. And then yeah, I just pretty much played my game. Obviously, there's gonna be some nerves when you're doing that, just because I mean it's so much money to have on the line in just like one game situation. But I also do have like a decent amount of experience in terms of rather large monetary swings due to the high stakes cash games that I've been playing for years. And it doesn't make it any easier, but you kind of have an idea of like, okay, if I played for $100,000 plus pot or like had a 6-figure up or down in a day, then you're like, okay, this isn't as scary as maybe someone else has been like, wow, like I've never played for more than $5,000 or $10,000 in like a spin and go, and then all of a sudden it's just this massive jackpot. And it could affect how you're actually playing in the moment.
How much of an edge do you think that gives you in these sorts of situations?
That's a really good question. It's tough to quantify. I mean, I could just make up some BS answer, but I won't do that. I would say it's fairly decent actually, because it comes down to mental game and mindset, and I think that's such a huge part of playing poker in general. Like if you don't have the confidence and the right almost strength of will to take the actions that are going to be the best EV decision for you, then that can actually be a huge minus EV thing for your game. You're like, do I want to re-jam here? Do I want to go for this buff? Maybe do I want to go for a different type of game strategy that you normally would there, and you would adapt in that situation. But like, it's so much money. I don't know. And then, you only have a certain amount of time to think in this minute go, and it's not a ton. So you got to be able to act relatively quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure on players in those could be enormous. Especially, I mean, you're playing the 501ks, so it's obviously still a huge amount of money, but it's not quite as crazy as some of the. If you hit one of those very big multipliers at the lowest level or at the lower levels, if you hit the top multiplier there, the stress level must be very, very high for those guys.
Yeah, no. Funny enough, I didn't even tell you about this, but we had a player in our stable. Shout out to Jay, who hit the jackpot. We didn't win it, but he like spun the jackpot at 30s a few days ago. So he's playing for $300,000 first prize.
And he's usually playing $30 games.
Yeah, he's playing I think 30s and 60s right now, and super nice guy. And so what happened? He ended up getting in. I think he had like 9s, and he got in against like 6s, and the guy like turned to 6. Yeah, that's kind of brutal to have happen. But at the same time, that happens, and then he just gets 30K. So
yeah, so it's still a solid day's work.
Yeah, still super good. But it's an interesting experience when like the mindset. Like I saw that, I like logged into Skype. I think I had come home from dance probably, and I just like saw like the stable chat, like a bunch of messages, and then no, I didn't even see the stable chat first. I actually saw the Poker Stars lobby. And then I'll look at the people that won the multipliers, because it's just like fun to do, and like sometimes I'll check on the games and all that. And then I like see like the big multiplier gone off, and then I see the 3 names, and then I look at the bottom one, and I'm like, I think that guy's in my stable.
Man, and Yeah, it's so close.
Yeah, so close, but it's okay. You just got to keep doing your thing and have gratitude for what you did get. And he actually had a really really good mindset about it. And I'm kind of proud of that fact. That I think it'd be like it's a little testament to the mental game approach. Like I think if he might not have been getting mental game coaching and things of that nature, and had that kind of mindset of just the stable as a whole, plus having the community be able to like, hey, I'm in this multiplier, like that's kind of an exciting thing. He could be like really like depressed or mad or angry for like days even. I would say if you didn't have that kind of mental preparation.
And I've definitely seen that. When people have missed these multipliers, it's similar as well to when people reach the final table of a very big event, especially if it's the first time, and then they bust out in ninth because, when there are 3 tables left, unfortunately, everyone to some extent is thinking about, the money they're going to win for coming first in that tournament. And then the fact, well, if I don't come first, I'm going to come first, second, or third at least. And then they get to the final table, they get ninth, and typically the payout isn't incredible for ninth place, and it can hit people hard, and it takes it to happen a few times before it's a natural process to deal with, and just accept that, hey, it's great to final table something, and just keep doing your job, keep solving the puzzles, and eventually you'll get the rewards you deserve from that.
Yeah, I agree. Another super small, short, quick tangent is actually a good friend / former horse of mine. He had just made the final table at the Barcelona main event. He ended up getting 8th though. So there's a little example there. I heard it from like another friend of mine who's also a professional poker player, and he's good friends with him. He's like, "Hey, did you hear? Like Thomas is like at the final table." I was like, "No, like that's awesome. Like I hope he wins it." And I was like, "I got 8th. Damn."
Yeah, but again, it's still a great payout. It's not the one they've pictured. It's still a great trip when you reach those final tables. And I think more than anything else, it's a demonstration that you're capable of actually getting to that deep in a tournament. And then obviously, like with your guy, 9s can always be busted by 6s. These things can happen. But putting yourself in that position over and over again is really all your job is as a professional. And then after that, we can't ask for much else. Now, you've also moved to Bali, and I think that's a quite wonderful thing for a few issues. One, obviously, the lifestyle suits you very well. But also, as a professional poker player, moving somewhere in the world where the costs make more sense. How important do you think that is to take control of the costs by finding geographically a better area?
It's a really good question. I think that it's actually quite massive. And I can say it from both sides of the spectrum, just because I used to live without kind of worrying about what things cost to an extent. I was just like, I can just play more poker. It's fine, or whatever. Like it's all good. And I think that mindset can be very dangerous no matter what your success level is. Like you want to have a respect level for the money that you're making. And it's also just nice when you're like getting maximum value for the work that you're putting in. I would rather be someone who makes less money but gets more value for that money somewhere else in the world versus being in a really expensive area of the world and then having to like work super hard and like, yes, you make more money, but then is it really worth it? And that's a question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, and I think so few people really understand the importance of this. The amount of money each month you need to spend can add an incredible amount of pressure to your poker career unless you're hugely rolled. So, for guys who are starting out, let's say someone is low jumping into mid stakes for MTTs and they're living in Western Europe. Let's say they're living in London or the surrounding area, and they'll ask me what's my best advice I could give them. They're looking to be a very serious professional. What's the best advice? The best advice is to move to Mexico, where it's cheaper and you're in a better time zone for MTTs, because the time zones really, really matter in poker, and the living costs really, really matter in poker.
Especially for MTTs, because I've done a somewhat ridiculous amount of variance simulations when it comes to those, and it can be pretty brutal. Just with the field size, and even if you have a rather large ROI, like you put those two things together, and you can go months and months, and depending on where your ROI is and what the field size are, I mean, you can go over a year if you're not putting in crazy volume and having that massive edge.
Yeah, and really finding somewhere where your savings add up to potentially years of living costs versus months of living costs. There's a very big difference in the level of stress that you'll feel when you're actually at the table.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So, this message was sponsored by the Mexican Tourist Board.
gotta give a shout out. Shout out to the Indonesian Tourist Board as well. I will say, I'm surprised at the amount of poker players that I found out that live here at least for part of the year. Like, I'm very surprised at that fact, but it's a sizable number.
It's just people being sensible. You get to live in paradise, and you get to pay less money, and that's the other thing. Again, for those of you listening out there who are the sort of the hardcore grinders, the world is your oyster. If you don't have a family and kids and everything yet, and you can, as a poker player, pretty much move anywhere in the world, make the same money, and live quite an adventure. And I think that's something that people definitely do it, but some people need to be told that it's okay. And I've seen some people do some quite incredible stuff over the years. So what is Bali actually like as a place for a poker player?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what area you live, for sure. But overall, I would just say that it's just amazing in terms of you can pretty much have whatever you want. Like for me, I choose to live in the Ubud area, which is kind of like in the middle of the island, and it's quote unquote called like the jungle, but it's not really a jungle. Like it's very civilized. There's lots of delicious food and great things to do here. And that's kind of like the area where if you're more into like yoga and meditation and going to ecstatic dance and like all these like kind of like conscious type events, it's a really, really good place to be. But at the same time, there's also other awesome areas on the island. Like, for example, the Canggu area is one that I quite like as well when I'm feeling in the mood for that, which is right in like the beach area. There's multiple beach areas on the island, but I kind of like Canggu because there's still like the awesome, tasty, delicious food, especially for me because I am vegetarian and dairy free. So essentially, like, you can just kind of pretend like I'm vegan if I go to a restaurant is the is the main approach. And like there's just tons of like great food options there. You're by the beach. There's lots of like really fun events if you want to go there. It's a really cool vibe. Lots of attractive looking people. Doesn't even matter what sex you are. There's good looking guys, good looking girls. It's just a mecca for people coming together. And like same thing in Ubud and other areas. Maybe I haven't even been on the island yet. I would say it would just be more the same because like it's Bali. Like people want to have fun, and people who want to have fun and enjoy life usually are like the types that want to interact with each other. So it's like they're all drawn to this magical island.
All drawn to dance together and
yes, fun. And a beautiful synergistic movement.
I mean, you're certainly selling it well. And in terms of the nutrition side, because that's actually quite interesting. First off, what's the difference between a vegetarian who doesn't eat dairy and a vegan? Just out of quick interest, and do you feel that having sort of a stricter diet has had much of an impact on your focus at the table and your play?
So the difference between a vegan and a vegetarian that doesn't eat dairy essentially is eggs and honey. That's it. Yeah. So I try and just get like sustainably like sourced like eggs and honey to where like essentially like there's no like animals harmed in the process. But again, I don't like stress about it. I'm like, where did this egg come from? Tell me. And the person's just like, no English. So yeah, I don't stress about it too much, but I just try and feel into what my body wants and stay intuitive with it. And I think every human being really has that intuition to what feels good to them or doesn't. And the issue is that most people just have like stopped listening to that voice or never learned how to do that. They haven't done the self practices. They aren't, getting into meditation or journaling or yoga or just like any type of like quiet meditative practice. And I think that's actually a really powerful method to kind of start listening to that little inner knowing that's within you.
Excellent. And in terms of that, the sort of the actual play change, did you notice a difference?
I mean, I would say the biggest difference that I noticed, we'll backtrack a little bit. Like when I first went vegetarian, I used to be like super like, I need my protein. I got to eat all these chicken breasts and like, or I'm going to like disintegrate into nothing and I have no muscles. And yeah, I was like, most guys can relate with that aren't vegetarian. But I did a lot of research and I was just like, oh, like how are these like vegan bodybuilders so ripped and have all these muscles and all this stuff? I'm like, wait a second, maybe I had some false information. And then I just kind of went down the rabbit hole and I realized that like you don't necessarily need to do X to get to a certain point that you want. Like there's multiple paths to take. And the other thing as well, and I think when people hear, oh, he's vegan or he's vegetarian and he doesn't eat dairy, it's like, oh, he's this like crazy hardcore person that's going to be like waving a sign in your face about like, you must be vegetarian. Like, nah, like, do what makes you happy. If you love eating chicken, if you love eating raw red meat, and that just like fills you with passion and joy and it works really well for your body, be educated if you can, but more power to you. Do what is in your joy. Yeah, do what works.
Some excellent advice there.
But sorry, to answer your actual question though, because I went off on a tangent there. I would say differences that I noticed when I made the bigger shift, which was not necessarily like being vegetarian and all of that, even though it did have a shift. The big shift for me was when I started doing intermittent fasting about a year and a half ago, I think. You might remember better than me because like
I think it was about 18 months. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and like that's been massive. Just in like, and also in terms of efficiency, because I'm only eating during like I'd say like a 6 or so hour window out of the day, like 6 to 8 hours. It really varies. Sometimes it's like 5 hours. I adjust it based on what I'm doing over the course of the day. But I just tend to eat like 2 decently sized meals in that period, and I just drink a ton of water during the other periods, and it massively opened up the amount of time and energy that I had that I didn't even realize that I was spending on eating, making food, preparing it, all this stuff. Because I used to eat 5 or 6 meals a day, and I was just constantly eating or making food or ordering food or something involving food.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a huge time drain, isn't it? If you're, if you're doing the 5 or 6 meals a day thing that some people do, that you've really got to think about that efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even if you don't care about the health, you just want to make some more money, just do intermittent fasting. There you go.
There you go. Problem solved.
Save money on food too if you live somewhere expensive.
Yeah. I mean, some parts of the world, it's definitely a big part of the living costs. So, Gabe, I mean, with the stable and things, where can people find out about it? Where can they find out about you if they want to hear some more?
Yeah, well, the stable's name is Evolve Staking. Right now, we only specialize in spin and goes, and you can go to www.evolvestaking.com. I guess the link will be in the description below.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll put the link to the staking group in the description. And then also what I'll do is I'll put a link through so that anyone who's interested can watch Gabe's $100,000 spin and go session and follow on the joy there as well.
Yeah, for sure. And like, honestly, for me, I know I should be like, oh yeah, go check out my business. I really care more about the kind of sharing of my journey in my life that I'm doing right now, which I'm doing on like Facebook, I'm doing on YouTube, I'm making vlogs, and I'm just trying to kind of put as genuine of a representation of how I live my life out into the world, and just share, my mindset, what I'm thinking about, what I'm doing, and find ways to sort of influence other people, including poker players, to find more ways to bring joy into their lives and to live their life how they would really want to. Because it's selfish, but like, it makes me really happy to help people. I love doing it. So I'm just like, well, if I'm not hurting for money and I'm able to pursue this passion, then I want to do it. So if anybody's interested in that, definitely check out the other links that Elliot will include to like my YouTube or something like that.
And definitely worth you guys checking it out. If you are someone who's sort of, the stereotypical, living in an expensive Western country, sitting on your own, feeling very isolated, watch Gabe's vids and get an idea of the potential you have as a poker player to really have a quite extraordinary life. You have much more freedom than you might think you do. So, check out Gabe's stuff. And we'll once again, Gabe, thanks for coming on. Just great fun to have a chat.
It's always good chatting with you, Elliot. Thanks so much for having me on.
So it's always fun to talk to Gabe. I've known him for a long time, and it's been fun to watch his progress over the years. If you enjoyed listening to him there, definitely check out his YouTube channel and the video of him winning that 100K spin and go from the other week. We'll put it in the podcast link so you can check that out. It's always a bit of fun to see someone hit one of those. And if you're interested in finding about me or my services, check out pokermindcoach.com. And if you haven't downloaded my app yet, why not? It's a free download to see if you like it. Check out primedmind.com and download that to your iPhone or your Android device. See if you like it. There's tons of free MP3s on there. And if you like it, you can subscribe and get an enormous amount of content. We shall talk to you soon.
You've been listening to the Mindset Advantage podcast. To get future episodes delivered to you automatically, make sure to subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcasting service. To get any resources mentioned in the episode or to listen to past shows, visit pokermindcoach.com/TMA podcast. Thanks for listening.